One is worship, small groups, and local missions. And our purpose is transforming lives for Jesus' sake, helping individuals experience that transformation. And we use these three areas, worship, small groups, and local missions, to help individuals experience that. You'll get a sense of who Newnan City Church is, and I hope that you'll come and worship with us soon. Take care, and God bless.
The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of this radio station, its management, or its sponsors. Listeners are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusions.
It's now time for Faith Works with Pastor Jimmy Ellison from Newnan City Church.
Good morning, Newnan. You're listening to Faith Works, and I'm Jimmy Ellison, your host, and we are thrilled that you tuned in this morning for this week's show. And I'm thrilled to have my good friend Brian Morgan, who is the area director for Fellowship of Christian Athletes here in Coweta County. And Brian, man, I'm so happy that you're here today.
Good to be here, Jimmy.
You are, you're, I think, my first repeat guest.
Yeah.
That's probably, about a year ago that you came? I was trying to think this morning.
It was definitely back in this early spring of last year, I think.
Early spring of 2017?
Yes.
Wow, gosh. That has been, so it's been a year and a half.
At least a year,
then.
yes.
That is great. Well, man, we're so glad that you're here. And I wanted to bring you back on, Brian, just to hear a little more about FCA. I know, man, what a year it's been. I mean, every time I turn around, I see something with FCA. And I know you've got a big, the fall is going gangbusters right now, and you've got a big spring that you're looking into. I want to go back to last fall when the East Coweta head coach got singled out because of a picture of him being with his players praying, and how that got national attention, and how FCA rallied around him during that period of time. You want to share a little about that and what all happened?
Yeah, you know, what Satan intends for evil, God uses for good.
Yeah.
This was a classic case of that. Coach Small, in his daily routine, had led players in prayer, which is obviously something that they frown upon from a legal standpoint. Mm-hmm. Harmless, but from a legal standpoint has its ups and downs. And he made national news when one of the anti-religion freedom rights groups got a hold of it and kind of blew it up. And FCA came alongside Coach Small, first of all, to pray with him and let him know that we supported him and that we loved him, and also offered him legal if we could. And then we just rallied around him to pray with him and pray for him, and that resulted in a rally over at East Coweta High School that drew several hundred people just to support the community.
Yeah, I was there. I mean, there was a lot. The stands were not, quote, packed, but they certainly were full.
And from that trickle down, we have instituted where on all our high school football teams that it is student-led prayer now. So the coaches just stand and respect the students' right to pray, because they have that right to pray as students. And it's been even more powerful to see the students rise up and that kind of rallying cry for them. Yeah,
it's kind of neat to see that how that situation has impacted in a positive way, just the different teams. And FCA, how many schools are you guys in right now in Coweta?
We're in all 5 of the high schools.
And that's the 3 public, and then
Trinity and Heritage.
And Heritage. Okay.
And we're in 5 of the middle schools.
5 middle schools. And to be in a school means that you have a club that meets on a weekly basis.
Our clubs are called huddles.
Huddles.
And same theming of sports.
Now, do the soccer players and basketball players?
They call them huddles.
They still call them huddles,
because how we work is we have sports huddles and we have all sport huddles, and the all sport huddles meet weekly on a high school or a middle school, and that's for kids whether they're athletes or not. That's the weekly club meetings.
Okay.
And then the specialty sports huddles, or where we have a character coach or a chaplain, and they meet with their teams once a week.
And how does that work as you're your character coach? Do you handpick these individuals, or does somebody come to you and say, "Hey, I'm interested in helping out"? Because isn't Ryan Brooks part of that?
He's been a track.
Okay,
Him and Alexis
he's
are the track.
At Madras, is that where
Ryan's at Noonan. He's the track coach at Noonan.
Okay,
yes.
I thought he did something with football.
I think he does Madras football as well.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So what we do is we have a couple positions, volunteer positions. Everybody asks how they can help with FCA. One of them is a character coach / chaplain, and there's 2 ways that you do that. If you're an FCA character coach, you speak to the team on character-based themes. You can reference scripture just like you could reference any other book, but you base it on a character talk, and then that way the coach can make it mandatory because it's a character-based talk. Okay, and then there's a chaplain type service, and the chaplain type service is just a basic devotional. But in that instance, the coach has the option to tell the kids, "We're staying. You don't have to if you like.
If you want to stay."
And we just base what we are based on what the coach is comfortable with.
Sure. And so, is there a character? I mean, you don't have character coaches for every sport, do you?
We have about 25 to 30 right now involved in the year between the schools. Yeah.
That is fantastic. So 25 to 30 volunteer adults who are pouring themselves. Is it a weekly commitment?
It's a 30-minute, well, it depends on the season. It's a weekly commitment during the season. It's 30 minutes is all we require. Some of that's not even, and we're not even saying you have to speak. A lot of times you don't speak. You just go out and love on kids and support coaches.
Right.
I mean, a lot of our character coaches are the water boys and the water girls and the scorekeepers or the ponytail tires or the ankle tapers, or just here to show kids what service is and be available.
That is fantastic. That's great. So so you've got all these character coaches that are involved, and then you have these weekly big gatherings of groups. And I spoke, I guess it was it had to be Madras Middle School last year. And Brian, I'm thinking there had to be, is it maybe 400? Is that
they fill up a whole side and half of another?
It was, I could not believe, and it was packed, and not just, I mean, seat to seat, every space filled. And how did it get to be that size? I mean, are all the middle school? I was at middle school. Are all the middle schools like that? No,
Madras and Madras and Evans are by far our largest attenders, and both of them are about that number every week. I have no clue how it got that way. They've been that way for a long time, and funny enough, a great number. We did the math at the beginning of the year. When you count the weekly huddles that we have on an average basis and the teams that we're touching on a weekly basis, we touch about 2,000 kids a week during the fall.
That's amazing. That is, man, so many. You just have to assume that half of those kids are not involved in a local church.
Rob Brass uses the number 75%, I think.
75
that really aren't seen in a local church in a week.
That is amazing that they have that influence, and I bet you get a lot of support from parents. I hope
we do.
Do you?
We do. They always point the kids to their character coach or to their chaplain, and supports them and the coaches as well, just by having a neutral or someone that's going to direct them the right way.
That is great. Well, so tell us a little about what has been going on this, a year and a half ago now. We had that the prayer event that happened that last fall. Have there been any other major events that you guys have rallied around?
There's been a couple. I mean, we're trying to be outside the box, cutting edge, reach them where they're at kind of people.
Sure.
And so we had our first ever Women in Sports banquet back in January.
That's right. I remember that.
We invited ladies sports teams from Coweta and Fayette County, and that was a huge success.
Where did you do that?
At South Metro Ministries. We had a couple hundred girls there. It was just a great time to rally around them and show them how much we love them. And then we had our first ever Coweta Fayette football combine this summer at Whitewater High School.
Really? Okay.
All three.
With Coach Holly over there.
Yes. What a great guy.
Let me tell you, Coach Holly is, and I'm a little biased. I knew I'm sorry to cut you off
No,
there. I knew Coach Holly when I was chaplain over at Stars Mill back in, gosh, I started that in late 90s, I guess, and early 2000s. But Coach Holly came on board probably around 2004 or 5. He moved, I think, from Kentucky to Fayette County to coach at Stars Mill. And then, of course, he got promoted and is the head coach at Whitewater. But what a godly man and influence! And they send last 2 summers they have sent their varsity football players to the shelter where we run our ministry in Atlanta and have done football camp for our boys.
Wow.
And then invite the boys down on a Friday night, let them hang out, do the pregame meal, let them hang out on the sidelines. I mean, that's great. So they hosted this.
So it was Brian. It was Coach Holly's, one of his ideas. Him and Rob Bress had seen it done somewhere else, and we just thought it would be a great opportunity to reach. So we had a couple sponsors step up to the plate, offer some prize money, and on a Friday morning, EC, Noonan, Northgate, and Whitewater were the only 4 participants.
So the other Fayette County schools didn't jump in?
For timing reasons or practice reasons, they opted out.
Okay.
But we were there at Whitewater High School and ran about 7 events, the same kind of similar events you'd see, the running, the jumping, the zigzagging, the pulling a truck, the pushing a sled. And at the end of that day, we shared the gospel with all those kids, got to give them T-shirts. Several prayed to receive Christ, and so that was fun.
That's exciting. That is great.
So that was fun.
And that was this past summer?
That was past June, and then of course we went through camp season.
Yeah.
And up to this point, we just had 2 weeks ago. We had our 2nd annual Fields of Faith.
Yeah.
And it was at Northgate High School, and spearheaded by the Northgate kids and their leadership, and Tamara Ledford. We had our 2nd Fields of Faith, which is a national FCA event held on the same Wednesday.
Didn't realize that.
Across the country.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Fields of Faith. Okay. I knew about that. I was the hurricane
chased us away 1 week.
The first week, and then I had a conflict the second week. I was not able to attend, but.
So Fields of Faith was about 400 high school kids gathered at one place for one cause, and it was all student-led. We had about 7 or 8 students speak. Student band was playing. We had hip-hop artists come and speak, and then they circled the entire Northgate football field at the end and prayed as one.
Really?
So
that's great. That is great. So what you got coming up with FCA?
Well, right now we're in what we call the crossover stage, where some sports are ending up, and other sports are starting. We have character coaches on all of the high school wrestling teams.
Really?
On all 3 high school wrestling teams. We have character coaches on most of the basketball teams.
Does Trinity and Heritage have a wrestling team?
No, they don't.
Okay.
They don't. So the 3. And last year we were able to partner with the county wrestling championship to give away FCA gear. So this year, every champion on the county championships will receive FCA gear, stating they're a county champion. So they've allowed that partnership to grow through FCA wrestling.
That is great. That is super. Are all the wrestling teams in Coweta competitive?
Very much so.
Are they so? I know
3 great coaches.
I
3
know
amazing.
Noonan is just top notch.
Yeah,
I don't know the coaches over at the other schools.
Yeah, Coach Ferrari and Coach Wick over at Northgate and Coach Ferrari at East Coweta are just amazing. Open for FCA to come in.
That's great.
Great guys.
That is so good. So good. Now I know you guys. Matter of fact, this week you've got a clay shoot coming up. Tell us a little about that.
We only basically have 3 major fundraisers for FCA to support 3-person staff and all these events. And one of them comes up Thursday at Big Red Oak Plantation, and it's the Coweta FCA clay shoot, and door prizes. Just a fun time of fellowship. Not too late to sign up.
Yeah,
go
I was
to
going
our
to
website.
ask if folks wanted if they wanted to follow up, they could certainly wherever they see this message posted or call. You can we'll hook you up with that for this Thursday. So, how many folks will be participating?
I think last time we had like 25 teams, so there are 150. We planned on feeding 180, so that's kind of what will be out there on Thursday
you got
morning.
Destin doing your
Yep, Coach Alley doing the barbecue.
Man, I hear he knows what he's doing with that.
He is the man.
That's going to be great. That's going to be so good. So this goes to support just the overall mission for FCA.
Yeah, it goes to support Coweta and Fayette.
And Fayette.
Mm-hmm. It's a Coweta Fayette.
Is Rob over Fayette as well? How does that work?
Yeah, Rob oversees our area and Coweta, Fayette, and Douglas County, and I believe Carroll County too.
Okay, that is great. That is so good. That's a lot. That's a big response. That's a big area for him.
A lot of schools.
A lot of schools there. So you have been in FCA. I know your background is in student ministry. And then you move from student ministry to a different style of student ministry in FCA. What's the differences between, what have you seen? What's the pros and cons moving from this type of ministry to another? What have you seen that's different or works you like better, or maybe more of a challenge in one area?
I would say definitely one of the cons is coming from the student ministry. You get to see the completion of the process, that you would see the beginning discipleship to the mature discipleship to even the end discipleship, where we just get them for a season. And we want to filter back to the local church.
Right.
So we don't necessarily see, we kind of mentor to them where they're at, or direct them to churches like yours or so many of the other churches, and get them plugged in there, and they do so much, and then we see an end result of that. So that would be a con. I mean, it was kind of neat to journey through kids through spiritual growth.
Sure. And I know that you impacted. It's funny, I was talking to a young lady at our church this last week who you mentored and grew, and it was neat to hear her story and just her talk about just serving along beside you, I mean, as a kid, and then serving along beside you as an intern, and how God used your leadership to just really impact her life for the kingdom. So that having that ongoing relationship is truly, I bet, it was rewarding to see that. And
it was hard. It is hard, and but the pros, I'd go all day on the pros.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, growing up a sports kid.
Yeah. Because you wrestled in college.
Wrestled in high school, wrestled in college, played baseball in high school.
Played baseball in high school. What did you play? What position in baseball?
I was second base guy.
You look like a second baseman.
I was a little second batter that could bunt, and wasn't real fast. And
you were not
I was
fast?
average. I was average. That's why I wrestled. Short and skinny. And
what weight did you wrestle in college?
118 pounds.
In college. Did you have to cut to get to 118?
I was about 150 and cut to 118, so I cut about 32 pounds.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Scary enough, I was the same height, and they'll never see 132.
Come on,
with losing some legs.
Come on, we can do it. 118.
118.
Wow. Not much body fat on that frame.
Not much of anything.
At 118. Wow. And so of course, you're a sports guy, and then
always been a sports guy.
And then transferring that to this ministry.
Speak the language, know the kind of kids, know coaching, know that kind of person, and just able to hopefully get where they're coming from, and where their families are coming from, and where their wives are coming from. And
can you guys you pour a lot into the coaches?
We do.
I mean, isn't that one of the strategies of FCA?
It is. To and through the coaches is an FCA strategy, because if you look at the time that we spend with those kids is valuable, but the times that the coach spends with them is countless.
Yeah.
So if we can continue to make them healthy and pour into them and their families, then we know that we're getting the end result of we're just supplementing what they do.
Sure. Wasn't it Billy Graham that said that the most influential people in the country are coaches, or
he said
something to that effect?
Something to the effect that one coach will reach more kids in a year than we will in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Because if I think back when I was in school, what did the word "hey coach" meant? Well, it meant, "Hey father, I need fatherly advice. Hey doctor, this is hurting me. Hey pastor, because I need spiritual advice. Hey counselor.
Yeah.
Hey tutor."
That's
that
good.
one word, coach answers all those questions.
That's good. That's real good.
Why is my car not working? Hey, coach, why is my car not working? So, yeah, we understand, and we also understand the pressure that are on those guys to mold young men and women, and the women coaches as well, that we've put a lot of stress on them to help society out a little bit.
And the hours they work.
Of
People have no clue, do they?
No.
If you've not lived it, or if you're not married into it, but my buddies who specifically who coach high school varsity football, it is especially during the season, it is. They get their Saturdays off,
and that's it.
That's it.
Yeah,
The rest of the days, the Monday through Friday are 12, 15 hours, and then
Sunday afternoon, 7 or 8 hours.
You're doing, every week. It's just non-stop. That's a pretty intense. And all those wives out there who have those husbands who
they basically lose. Yeah,
put on those hours. It's a big, huge commitment. Huge commitment those guys make. And so, was there ever a time, Brian, that when you were in sports, that you thought, you were a believer as a high schooler, weren't you?
I was a believer. I got saved on a field in my hometown. I'm from Fairmont, West Virginia, and we used to play pickup football. You remember pickup football,
Sure,
where you'd
sure.
write the numbers on your T-shirt?
Sure.
Whatever helmet you had was good, and we would play pickup football on this field, and a Southern Baptist church came in and they set up a tent for Bible school. And you remember when Southern Baptist and other churches used to come and have tent
Sure.
Bible schools.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was 12 years old, I walked an aisle on my foot. I was mad because they were on my football field. So I decided to go to their event, and I walked the aisle when I was 12 and gave my life to Christ. So I was a believer, although I would say I was a safety net believer, where I had the safety net, but I didn't have the relationship. So,
Yeah.
coming through school, I was a believer, but you'd have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah. And so, how about college? When did your faith really take off?
College was probably a blur too. Yeah, so my faith didn't really take over until it was probably 42, 41, and I got serious about my faith mainly because of my children and because of what a church did for me.
Yeah.
And so then I caught back fire again, got baptized, and surrendered to the ministry. But never would I have. Never even coaching. I never even pictured that I'd even coach.
Okay, well, I was going to ask, was there ever a time that you thought this love for sports, this love for Jesus, it would actually turn out like this in sports?
Never.
In FCA?
Never. And I never was one of these kids that even said I'd like to coach. By the time I got out of wrestling, I was over it. It's just been 6 years of...
How many years in college did you wrestle?
I wrestled 2 years. The second year, I never even get to wrestle because that's when Title IX became popular, which is the gender equity law.
Right.
And we lost the program. So I lost my scholarship. And so it was 2 years in college, 4 years in high school, and 2 years in middle school. And I was over it all.
And where were you wrestling? Which school was it?
I was at a small school in West Virginia called Fairmont State. And the reason I went to Fairmont State...
Is that a local college?
It was my
then?
home school, but the year before I went, they were NAIA national champs.
Right.
So everybody was coming there. And fortunately, I got a scholarship because I didn't have to pay room and board. So it wasn't just my hometown. At that time, that was the guys.
Wow.
So that worked out in both ways.
And they had to drop the program. They were national champs.
Get national champs, and we were top 5 nationally the next year, and then the following year
They dropped
and everybody lost scholarships. Yeah, and
Oh gosh, we can talk about Title IX another time. I've got mixed feelings about that, but like I said, we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, that was my demise when.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough to swallow that there. So you, not until an adult with married children did you think, I've got to step it up in my own spiritual journey.
I did, and I realized that I needed to be the spiritual leader of my house. My wife and my daughter were going to church, and my son and I weren't. And my son had broken his leg. We were up in Reynoldsburg, Ohio, and I'd met a pastor that was much like yourself, very personable, and he'd actually played football at a rival college like Glenville State, which was in my little conference in West Virginia. So he was playing football at the same time I was wrestling it.
Okay.
And my son had broken his leg. Levi had fallen and broken his leg, and my wife was going to their church, and they came and fed our family for 2 weeks. And they never laid an eye on me or Levi.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what? That's the least. If they can represent the church, the least I can do is go to church. And the Lord got hold of me, and I got the fire again. We go to Florida. I get plugged into a church down there, just through an athletic guy. I saw a guy walking in our neighborhood. He was a former college football player. Didn't know he was the pastor at the church. Jimmy Patterson right here in town.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm in a gym shooting basketball with kids. And the youth pastor comes and says, hey, you ever think about working with kids? I'm like, no. And he said, I need a coach for a flag football team. And I'm like, I'll do that. Here I am.
Wow. That's amazing how all that came about. Well, we're coming up on a hard break, Brian. I want us, when we come back on the second half, I want us to think through. I want you to share some life change stories. I want you to share just some of the, if you can, some of the kids, or maybe some of the stories of some kids that FCA has impacted their lives for the kingdom's sake. I know it. Friends, hey, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be right back.
The end of days. A revelation is coming. See Scripture take living form as you take the judgment journey. He sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. Faith Baptist Church in LaGrange brings you Judgment Journey. Dynamic, live, multimedia. Its 22nd year with over 18,000 witnessing every year. Beginning October 6th and every Friday and Saturday through November 3rd. Under 16 only with adults. Info and order tickets at judgmentjourney.com.
Wildwood Trader at 15 Greenville Street in Noonan is your home for hand-built antique furniture, cabinets, and more. Fun decorating items. And of course at Wildwood Trader, direct from the factory items and furniture. So you get 20% below the factory and store prices. Call 770-683-4304. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sundays, 12 noon to 5 p.m. Wildwood Trader, your home decorating specialist in Noonan. Ever dreamed of being a radio DJ or hosting your own show? Now here's your chance. WQEE 99 Rock the Key is giving you an opportunity to host your own show. If you'd like to get your advertising message across the thousands of listeners throughout the area, here's your chance. Hosting your own show is the way to do it. Perfect for attorneys, realtors, churches, sports talk shows, and more. Contact 678-673-6318 for further information. Host your own show. WQEE 99 Rock the Key has opportunities for your church to be heard every Sunday. Become a part of our Sunday Sunrise, our evening services. Interested in information? Contact us at 678-673-6318. WQEE 99 Rock the Key, Noonan's home for classic rock and more.
Hi, I'm Walt Gutierrez, and here at Toyota of Noonan, we're all about the little things.
As in no hidden fees. And the biggest little thing we do for you is giving you more of everything, like our lifetime warranty with Toyota Care, plus 1 year of additional maintenance at no cost. And the Walternative, which gives you our best price, selection, and service. Plus, get incredible savings on all new Toyotas. Visit us at toyotaofnoonan.com.
All the little things add up to one big thing, taking care of you.
Hey, I'm Jimmy Ellison. I'm the pastor here at Noonan City Church. I want to thank you. You'll find as you walk through that we focus on 3 areas primarily. One is worship, small groups, and local missions. And our purpose is transforming lives for Jesus' sake, helping individuals experience that transformation. And we use these 3 areas, worship, small groups, and local missions, to help individuals experience that. You'll get a sense of who Noonan City Church is, and I hope that you'll come and worship with us soon. Take care, and God bless.
Welcome back to Faith Works. I'm Jimmy Ellison, your host. We're talking to Brian Morgan, who's the area director of Fellowship of Christian Athletes here in Coweta. And Brian, right before the break, I asked you to think about some life change stories and share with us how FCA is impacting lives here.
Well, I think you and I got a taste of that on Sunday.
Yes. Why don't you tell us about that?
Being a community coach, I've been in the wrestling community for about 6 years now, and work with a lot of kids, and actually roll around on the mat with a lot of kids, and have got to witness to them. And Coach Haig over at Noonan and the other coaches as well support FCA wrestling camp every summer, meaning they send a lot of their individuals and their whole team. That is their camp. So we've been fortunate enough to take kids up there, and they get quality instruction.
Where's the camp?
The camp's at Emmanuel College.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Emmanuel.
in Franklin. Okay. We run through about 600 kids in 2 sessions at FCA wrestling camp. FCA football camps at West Georgia. It's the largest FCA camp in the country.
That's crazy.
And so I had taken a bunch of these kids on a regular basis to FCA wrestling camp because they clearly get quality instruction and hear the gospel without a doubt. And recently, a couple of the kids have been coming to your church.
Yeah.
And
our church.
And they had made decisions that they wanted to grow in their relationship through baptism.
Yeah.
And I'd got to watch them grow and fall and get picked up again. And Sunday at a dear friend's house, you and I got to be part of a baptism for 2 FCA kids. And
that was beautiful. I tell you, Brian, I was reflecting on that Sunday night. I think most of the folks who listen know that my background is United Methodist, and in the United Methodist tradition, we've not we do not immerse or quote dunk individuals in baptism. Mostly it's sprinkle, and it's we sprinkle adults who accept Christ, but immersion is not part. We do practice that, but it's not something on a regular basis that you practice. And switching over recently to the Free Methodist, that's who we're affiliated with. They do. I mean, that's a big part of the tradition in the Free Methodist Church is baptism by immersion. And I tell you what, it was the first time I had experienced a full worship service where multiple people. We had 5 baptisms. And what a joy it was, and I saw when you were there baptizing Zach and Taylor, I thought, how beautiful it is how the Lord has used you, Brian, to impact the lives of these young people, and how their walk with Jesus is stronger today because of your ministry and the impact that you've had in their lives. And it's thinking that all came through wrestling, and that's it. On a side note, this was the first time I've ever been exposed to female wrestlers on the high school level, and so that's been neat to hear their story and how they've competed in wrestling and done well in wrestling, exceeded in that, but just how you walked alongside them in that season and just poured into their lives. That's a great story.
Well, let me tell you one of my favorite life change stories. There's a lot of them, but one of them has to do with Taylor, which is the female wrestler that you and I were speaking about. Yeah. So she comes into Noonan High School 3 years ago as a sophomore, and me, like the other coaches, thought this isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But, we'll honor her commitment, but this is a tough sport. I'll send her 3 years later to tell you that she's been in and out of the varsity lineup for 3 years, competing against guys in the same weight classes. Her work ethic is over the top. And she got plugged in with FCA last year because we trying to put character coaches on teams. And I had a young lady, Elizabeth West, come to me and worked with Ryan Brooks and says, I'm ready to character coach. Do you have a sport? And I said, well, I don't have a sport right now, but I got 4 ladies that are on the wrestling team that I don't know how to character coach. I mean, I can't imagine. And she said, I'll come in and just love on them. She said, I don't understand anything about wrestling, but I love to mentor teenage girls. And I'm like, you're perfect. So Elizabeth comes in and she learns wrestling and she teaches them about the Lord. And she'd have a small group on Wednesday night, and they'd teach her a move, and she'd teach them a scripture. And so it's about 3 months into that, and I said, Taylor mentions Elizabeth, and I said, oh, you're a character coach. And she said, no, she's my small group leader. So she had formed a small group with those girls, and recently, within the last 4 or 5 months, Taylor has stepped up as a student and taken over the leadership of that group. So Taylor has since went to FCA captain's camp. She went to FCA wrestling camp. So to see student come from non-involvement to student leadership is amazing.
That is amazing. And she's thinking about wrestling next year in college, isn't she?
Yeah, and she's being sought after, yes. Yeah.
Wow, that is so amazing how she's grown in that area there. So, what are some other stories of individuals?
It's always good to talk about leadership.
Yep.
Last year we had a kid named Garrison Morgan. It was the first kid that I ever recall being. We have captains of the huddle, just like football, which is basically the president of FCA. And Garrison Morgan was captain for 4 years at Noonan High School. And last year he received the rivalry from the Army, I believe, the rivalry award at halftime of the East Coweta game. And I found out that he's going to be in the Rivalry Hall of Fame.
Really?
And they've asked someone to prepare how he impacted the rivalry. And it's going to be an honor for me to sit down with his mom today and talk that his impact wasn't when the whistle was blown. It was before the game, leading his team out for prayer, and the stature that he was, and just to see a kid come through that be consistent his whole walk with Jesus.
That is great. How old is he?
He's a freshman this year.
Wow.
He's a freshman. He's not playing football. He felt that was the season, but left a legacy for sure.
That is so good. That is so good. What tell us about these huddles. I'm fascinated. So they happen on a weekly basis for the most part, and these character coaches lead huddles.
Lead sports huddles, yes. The sports specific huddles, yeah.
And so just listen about Elizabeth. It got me thinking. So it moves. It's more than just on the campus. It could transfer into a small group type.
Yes, definitely transfer into a small group type or an event. We've taken several teams: East Coweta Wrestling, Madras Middle School, Noonan High School Football, Noonan High School Wrestling, Softball, Baseball, down to Bridging the Gap.
Yeah,
and they serve as a group in the community as well. So the sports huddles are unique to the season, but hopefully they continue afterwards.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That is super. Well, what's coming up next down the road for FCA? Do you hope to expand more huddles or character coaches? Or when you think about growth, are you at a place where you feel you're content right now? Are you thinking how can FCA grow? Where are you guys?
We could use about 20 more character coaches, easy, and plug them in immediately. And I would like, we said we had a goal to double our character coaches when they were like 20. So we'd like to have 40 character coaches, and they're available spots at middle schools, high schools. You don't only have to know the sport, you just have to love kids and listen. So we want to grow the character coach, that emphasis on it, and we're just looking to be outside the box. Recently, one of the things that we got into last year was we sponsored 4 baseball travel teams.
Really?
Mm-hmm. FCA understands that that's a harvest. The harvest is plenty. And so last year we partnered with the Noonan Naturals out of Sharpsburg, and combined to, now they're called the FCA Noonan Naturals. There's an 8U, a 10U, a 12U, and a 16U team that participate every weekend in travel ball with the FCA cross and insignia. They're given FCA Bibles. Their coaches are given FCA devotions. On a Sunday morning or a Sunday afternoon, one of us will sneak out to where they're playing, if it's locally, and share the devotion with them because they're out of church. So we're really that's been a highlight for us, is to be in that arena as well.
That's great. Now, does FCA go on their logo or something? How does that work?
Yes, the FCA logo is on their sleeve, and it's on their hat and on the back of their helmet. And when they're in any tournament they're in, it says the FCA Noonan Naturals.
The FCA.
And they pray. The coaches were given expectations, conduct expectations.
Yeah.
The players were given that. I spoke to everybody before. We place a Bible in their hands. They carry it in their backpacks.
Now, any of these baseball players end up going to Baseball for Christ?
We haven't seen that. This is the first year that we sponsored.
This past summer?
This past summer, and we first 16U we did, so they're young.
Okay, yeah.
But most of them make that connection.
Yeah. We'll have to have Mike Winslet or somebody from Baseball for Christ on the show to share about that ministry, doing amazing work down in Mexico.
Yes.
Down there. That's great. That is super. So you could use 20 to 25 more character coaches.
Yeah,
man.
Anytime.
Come on, jump. I'm sitting here thinking that may be an area I could jump into.
The requirement is 30 minutes a week.
Yeah.
And just to love on kids.
Sure. Do you ever bring all those character coaches together?
No, because they come from so many different walks of life. There's pastors, there's youth pastors, there's insurance guys, there's people that work at
all the above.
They all. And, that's what's great about being a character coach is we don't have to say you have to come every Wednesday or every...
Right.
You can come before practice, after practice, come to a game, not come to a game.
And you get... The coach signs off on it ahead of time.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we've got coaches that have already asked that I don't have people to put there.
Wow. Brian, we're winding down the last 10 minutes or so on the show. I want to hear where have you found great joy and where have you found challenge working in FCA?
I've definitely found great joy in the fact that kids are always open to adult interaction if it's the right adult interaction. I don't think that kids are opposed to adults mentoring them and coaching them. They're opposed to people trying to run their lives. And just, the ministry of presence. If you just want to hang out with some great kids, hang out with them. Not just see them. I've been blessed to see them at their worst and in their best. Because sports brings out both of those.
Yeah.
And when you mix life in with those, you really see who kids are.
Yeah.
So that has been probably the most rewarding, is to see kids and coaches even being real. Have a coach just call you and say, dude, hey, something's not right with me and my wife. And just to go through real life at the ground floor level. Frustrations would be absence of parents in kids' lives, either by natural or by choice, and just no direction.
Yeah,
no direction. So that not having kids that mom and dad has never seen them play a game, and they live in. It just breaks my heart. Where my daddy never missed a game.
Yeah.
So just people realizing how good kids are and investing in kids like you'd invest in everything else.
That's good. So, you're when you think about challenge, and you think about your journey, how about a personal challenge? What's been a personal challenge?
Well, my latest personal challenge is Coweta Community in Schools offers a mentor program that allows adults that go through training and have background checks to be in the lives of high school and middle school and elementary students on campus for 30 minutes a week. And they'll identify those kids, or you can identify.
Which is different than the character.
This has nothing to do with FCA.
Yeah,
right now there is an immense shortage of mentors and tons of kids to be mentored. And I think less than 4 or 5 on one campus. And so I've been challenged to partner with FCA and find the churches and say, hey, if you want to serve, go to the high school for 30 minutes on your lunch hour. Once a week, 30 minutes with some of these kids will change their direction completely. Just to say, have you ever thought about it this way?
Yeah.
I mean, just to get them coached back a little bit. So that's kind of been one that God's laid on my heart lately. Yeah.
Well, we've had some off the air. We've had some conversation about that, and because clearly the Lord's been working on you on that. That this is a huge need in our community, in our schools, and so I look forward to seeing how all that plays out, how it works there. Tell us what do you think the biggest need of coaches are right now?
The biggest need is to pray for their families. Coaches' wives is a tough job.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine what they hear in the stands. You can imagine what their kids hear. You can imagine what they don't see in their husbands. And so, we really just, if you pray for their families and support the wives and their kids, then you're supporting the coaches.
Yeah. We've that's a real. When you said what they hear in the stands, I've got a friend who coaches, and boy, his wife can, she has shared some of this just horrible stuff that parents aren't thinking when they're saying that publicly.
And their kids hear the same thing at the school, so
yeah,
it's a battle.
You're definitely living in this fishbowl, and everybody's evaluating you, and everybody's second guessing that play when it was 3rd and 6. Why did you run this and not this? And why can't you tackle? And
how come he's not in?
Why isn't my son playing? Yeah, I don't think I could do it. Although, if I was not pastoring, I think I would be a coach.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm fortunate enough to be a community coach for baseball and wrestling, and I love that aspect too.
Yeah.
Just to be able to do the nuts and the bolts and the X's and O's as well.
Sure. That's good. That is really good. Well, we're winding down the show, Brian, but tell us what's the best way for people to get plugged in? Your greatest need, it sounds like, is the character coach. That's the biggest need, it sounds like, right now.
It is.
So I know you guys are always looking for churches to come alongside you, to partner with you from a financial standpoint as local missionaries here. There, so support from churches.
And I want to thank our church, Noonan City Church, for partnering with the wrestling team. We're hosting the wrestling team next Sunday.
This Sunday. And Taylor, who we talked about.
We'll actually have a little talk about her journey. And
she's going to share testimony.
We're actually hosting her Bible study now. So we are looking for church partnerships. And we can get our kids in there to speak to you, or one of us to speak to you, just to share the story, or open up your facility, or just pray for kids.
Well, that's one of the things I've noticed about both you and Rob. You both are so willing to go wherever. Hey, I'll show up and share. I'll show up and tell you what's happening with FCA. I'll make it a priority. Work around your schedule to be there. So, and listen, if you're listening and would want Rob Brass or Brian Morgan, who represent FCA in our community, to come to your church or your business, I mean, these guys are more than happy to come and make that a priority there.
You can get a hold of us at Coweta FCA. Just Google Coweta FCA, and it'll take you to the web page or our Facebook page.
That is great. Well, any final thoughts? Somebody's out there listening, and they're on that verge that maybe the Holy Spirit's been prompting them as they've listened to you. Gosh, maybe FCA is something how God can use me in FCA. Maybe they played a sport in high school. They've got a love. Maybe they just have a love for a sport now. Give us your pitch. Give us your as we wrap up the show.
I'm going to make it easy on everybody, saying, if you remember when they let you take the puppy home, or you got to test drive the new car, that you probably didn't put it back because you fell in love with it. Just come out when we're doing one of these things and test the water to see what you think, and I guarantee it's about 100% turnover rate. So come and see what FCA is doing. If you think you want to be about FCA, come and see what it's doing.
That's great. That is great. And as Brian said, the best way just to find them, just Google Coweta FCA. And that they will pop right up, and they'll have all their contact information there for you. Well, Brian, it's been great having you on the show today. Thank you for taking the morning to be with us today, and just look forward to seeing how God continues to use you and the lives of young athletes throughout our county, and I'm proud to be your buddy and friend.
Same
and
here.
Just really look forward to.
It's fun to partner with you and see what God's doing through Noonan City Church as well.
Sure, and looking forward to Thursday and the clay shoot. And I'm going to be there, but I'm not participating.
Nor am I. The only time that I did, it resulted in a basketball-sized bruise on my shoulder because I didn't know how to hold the gun.
Man, I did the same thing. The last one, I mean, for 3 days. Oh,
like someone beat me with a club.
I know it. Like I've been beat by my wife or something. Not good. Not good. Well, friends, it's been great having you tune in this morning on 99.1 The Rock, and just appreciate you listening to Faith Works. We'll be here next week, the same time. Take care, and God bless.
Thanks for tuning in to Faith Works with Pastor Jimmy Ellison from Noonan City Church. Tune back in here next week for another edition of Faith Works.